All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new continuous testing meetup, late January edition. We're happy to have you here. Thank you all for taking the time of, spending a few hours with us. We have quite some really interesting content for today. So let's get started. To start, as usual, we do a quick session with Oksana, 5-minute vocabulary session, and she's gonna talk today about criteria for test automation. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and you can start sharing yours, Oksana. The stage is yours.
So, hi everyone. So let's begin. I'm Oksana and we have 5 minutes vocabulary with me. And today it is the first time that I don't have any definitions for you, but I have, I think, really interesting topic, criteria for test automation, and exactly about transition manual testing to an automated environment. So just, okay. As always, I try to find all my material based on IS2QB material. IS2QB, in case you don't know, it is an international software testing qualification board with multi-level qualifying program for, at first, for software tester, but also for any kind of people who is interested in software quality, like developers or project managers or product owner. And if you want to learn more about test automation and exactly about criteria for test automation, please look into advanced level test automation engineer. You will find much more information that I can explain you in the 5 minutes. So, criteria for test automation. So, if we decide to translate our manual test cases to an automated environment, we need at first to evaluate the current state of the manual test cases. And normally, or in almost a lot of times, the manual test cases need to be rewritten or only need to reuse of parts, like you can use only inputs or expected results, but not the whole test cases. Also, if you know that in your test project you're going to automate your manual test cases into automated, you need also to use it in your manual test strategy. And you also need to know that not all test cases can or should be automated. Like if you speak about usability testing or exploratory testing, these types of tests, it's not the best candidate for automation. But if you speak about reliability testing or stress or performance tests, this test can be best executed during automation. But let us look into criteria for test automation. This list is only a short list of criteria that you need to use if you decide to create your manual or to transform your manual test cases into automated test cases. Some of them like frequency of use or complexity to automate, compatibility of tool support or maturity of test process. We will go deeper and look each criteria of this list. So the first criteria is actually, I think it is the easiest one, is frequency of use. So the tests that are run more regularly as a part of a major or minor release cycle are better candidates for automation as they will be used frequently. So as a general rule, the greater the number of application releases and therefore corresponding test cycle, the greater the benefits of automating tests. And from another side, if your test script is run only once a year and your system under test will be changed within this year, it will be not really efficient to create an automated test because the effort that you need to adapt your manual test case into automated tests, it's much more bigger than the output that you will get from test automation. So the next point, the next criteria, it is complexity to automate. So we have a good candidates for test automation, and we also have a bad candidates for test automation based on these criteria. Like a good candidates like test with a large number of simple test steps or tests which are error prone to execute. So I would recommend at first to automate these types of tests. But also we have another manual test, and there are not a really good candidates for automation, like a test that required very complex test automation solution for non-critical features, or the tests that require a complex test environment, or you need to test or the test for your system under test is not compatible with the existing available test automation solution. So in this case, you need to extend your test automation solution or to look for workarounds. And in this case, it is not a good candidate for test automation. And don't forget about it if you decide to migrate your manual test cases to automated. The next. Yes. The next criteria, it is compatibility and tool support. So there is a wide range of software development platforms used to create application. And the challenge to the tester is to know what available test tools exist to support any given platforms. So organization normally use a different testing tools like commercial test tools or open source or in-house development. And if you decide to automate your test cases, you need to know that you will get adequate and appropriate support that you need. Like, for example, if you use in-house solution, you need to be sure that the appropriate staff are there who know how works this test automation tool. Also, your test automation tool for sure need to be compatible with your system under test solution, because even if most tests can be automated, those that can be automated, like critical tests, may be the deciding factor on whatever to automate. And the last criteria that we will look today, it is maturity of the test process and suitability for software development lifecycle stage. If you speak about test automation, actually we have a software development project within a test process, within a test project. And if we start with test automation, we need to be sure that the test process is already structured and repeatable, and we can integrate our software development automation project into test project. Also, we need to decide in which software development life stage it is a good moment for test automation. Like if you start with test automation too early, it can mean a lot of rework as software is refactored, like screen layouts will be changed and control will be changed, and it means you have a continuous rework and it will be not efficient or effective to do test automation on this stage. And also, if you think to start with test automation on the end of life project, it is also not a good candidate, because you cannot use test automation a lot of times, like to execute your test cases in different releases, because it is end of your life cycle project. That's why the best point, the best stage, it is a stable stage in a project, so it is a good place for test automation. So today we spoke about criteria for test automation, like frequency of use or complexity to automate, about maturity of test process, and the next time we will look into another test automation criterion, like correctness of test data or controllability of the system under test. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Oksana. I was looking for the unmute button. Cool. So I think at least for me, one of the relevant parts of the presentation was that not every single test needs to be automated. So if you have any takeaways, feel free to write them down in the chat, to share them with others. Also, if you want to get in touch and ask more questions about this topic, feel free to join our Slack workspace. You can just go to continuoustestingmeetup.com and you will see the link at the bottom. But yeah, let's move on. As we usually do, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Sauce Labs and Trendic, because without them, it wouldn't be really possible to do the meetup, from small things as sending packages of swag to the speakers, to promoting the meetup through social media. We have like quite a big team behind the meetup, and that's what is making this group to be successful. We are almost going to be close to 2,000 members in the group in Berlin, and the other ones in London and in Barcelona are also growing as well. But our idea is to keep this group as cozy as possible and as friendly as well. So if you ever want to do a presentation, if you want to get in touch with us, just feel free to contact us in Slack or send us an email, or maybe you can just like write us in our Twitter account. Any way you can get in touch with us, we are always there for you. So before I forget, we have a webinar in Sauce Labs next week. It's going to be about Appium, and Wim is going to be talking about how to automate hybrid applications. Like maybe if you have a native application, the path is much easier if you use native tools or if you use Appium itself, but sometimes it's a bit tricky when you have applications that mix these two worlds. Therefore, you can have a look. This is the link for registration, and maybe later we're going to share in the channel, in the chat, sorry. We're going to share the link if you want to join. It will be next week. All right, so now let's jump to the main part. I'm very happy to have Bonnie today at the meetup. I think we spoke about it a couple of times, and he's going to be talking about this mix of these two great tools, Selenium and JUnit 5. I saw part of this presentation in the last Selenium conference that was online. Due to the format, the time Bonnie had for that presentation was reduced, so I feel a lot of interesting things and insights were left out. And that's why I thought it was a good idea to actually give him the stage again, at least here in the meetup, so he could share everything he has about this topic. Maybe if you don't know him, he has like a couple of big open source projects that I'm sure he's gonna talk about a bit. And I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen. So Bonnie, you can share yours. And if you have questions during the presentation, please write them down in the chat and feel free to write them there, and we can get them at the end of the presentation. And I think that's pretty much it. So thank you for being here, Bonnie, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Leo, and thank you everybody for joining me. Thanks for the opportunity to explain this topic, very interesting for me, and I hope for many people out there. Well, it's about testing, of course, this talk, and it's about Selenium, and also it's about JUnit 5. So I'm going to explain why, for me, these two important tools are, are suitable to work together. So, well, as you know, Selenium is a tool which allows to automate process. This is a piece of the Selenium documentation. Selenium is about automation of process. But mainly practitioners use Selenium for testing. Okay, it's not only for testing, but I think many of us use Selenium for testing. And when using Selenium for testing, I think it's very usual to call the Selenium API from a unit testing framework. For example, a unit Java or TestNG, or I don't know, Jasmine, Karma in JavaScript, or many others. So this talk today, I'm going to focus on Java, as as you know, Selenium can be used in different language binding. So this session is about Java, and specifically about JUnit 5, the version 5 of the popular testing framework for Java, which is JUnit. The latest version is JUnit 5, and I'm going to explain why JUnit 5 is very convenient to be used in conjunction with Selenium. And well, I am presenting this tool. You can see here in my screen a tool called Selenium-Jupiter. It's an open source project I have created and maintained, and it's an extension of the default programming model provided by JUnit 5 to use Selenium. So the main part of this session is about explaining how to implement JUnit 5 tests which use Selenium through Selenium-Jupiter. Also, it's very important Docker. Okay, we will see why Docker is important for making this kind of tests in a seamless way. Okay, because Selenium-Jupiter provides integration with Docker in a very easy way. So well, here you can see the links of this, of Selenium-Jupiter. In fact, I'm going to copy this link in the chat. If I can find the chat, where is it?
We can do that for you. You can just go on.
Okay, cool. Because I cannot find. Well, if you do, thanks a lot. So, in fact, we are going to see many code, okay? And the third link, it's about our GitHub repository for examples we have prepared for this session. And my recommendation for you, if you want to play with this example, is that you fork this repo and play with it and run the examples. And I think it's a good way to try to get used to this technology. You will require Java, an IDE, and so on. I suppose you are familiar with these technologies. So, let's go to the main part of the talk, which first I'm going to introduce JUnit 5, okay? Because, I suspect you are testing people, okay? If you are in this session, I suppose you are Java developers too, but maybe not many of you have used JUnit 5. Okay? It's a relatively new framework, so I'm going to introduce JUnit 5, okay, the latest version of JUnit. This version, JUnit 5, was released 3 years, almost 4, time flies, of almost 4 years ago in 2017. And I know very well this framework because I am a testing guy. And also 3 years ago, I wrote a book for the PAC publishing about JUnit 5. And in fact, when I was writing this book, somehow I was an early adopter of the technology. I realized that the programming model provided by JUnit 5, which is called Jupiter, was very convenient to use Selenium. So in fact, at that time, I decided to create Selenium-Jupiter. So first, I'm going to introduce, the main features of JUnit 5, okay? So here in this slide, you can see the architecture of JUnit 5. JUnit 5 is a framework which has been built from the scratch, has nothing to do with JUnit 4. JUnit 5 is completely modular from the beginning, has 3 main components. I am not going to explain everything in this figure, but at least the big picture. Which we have 3 components: the platform, which is a general component to run tests, not only JUnit tests, but in general, any kind of tests within the Java virtual machine. And out of the box, JUnit 5 provides 2 components to run all tests, which is the JUnit 3 and 4 tests in the vintage engine. Okay, this is the part in which developers and testers can create tests using old programming models. And the most relevant part for testers, I would say, is the Jupyter engine, which is this box, which provides a new programming model for test cases, which is very important for us, I think. So, of course, there are different APIs used, for example, for IDEs and build tools, but we are not going to focus on that. Now we are going to focus on the tester view, let's say. So in order to execute the Unit 5, we are going to require a build tool like Maven or Gradle. Ant is also supported, but I feel that Ant is not very used nowadays. Or an IDE. A modern IDE supports the Unit 5 out of the box, IntelliJ, Eclipse, and so on. You need to decide whatever IDE and you can run. Also, as a fallback, let's say we can use a console launcher to run Unit 5 from the command line. But I suppose the most important part is a build running Unit 5 with a build tool or with an IDE. So in order to use the Unit 5 in our projects, we need to configure the dependencies. If we are using Maven, we need to select the proper dependency, which is the JUnit-Jupiter engine, which depends in the API and the engine, okay? But for short, you can use only this dependency. And also you need to specify a version for the plugin, for the migrant surfire plugin, which is this version, this new version is not the default one. And that version is supposed to be fixed because that version is the one supporting the Unit 5. This is about Maven, okay? Basically, you can copy and paste this configuration from one of the examples in your code. And in Gradle is similar, okay? You need to specify the version of Unit 5. You need to specify that you are going to use the Unit platform to discover and execute the Unit 5 tests. And that's it. With that, you are able to code the Unit 5 tests. So I'm going to show you a very basic Unit 5 tests, okay, which are very, very similar to the previous version, to Unit 4. If you have used Unit 4, you know that you have some annotation, okay, some Java annotation to mark methods as the part that is running before the tests, which is the annotation in Java in Unit 5, before all and before each. And what happens after the test? That is the after each and after all. This is the very basic test lifecycle. Of course, in the middle we have the tests, the actual tests, which are annotated with at test. Okay, this Java annotation. And well, we implement JUnit 5 tests using the Jupyter programming model like this. Okay, there are some difference about JUnit 4, but basically it's very, very similar about the Unit 4. So we can think in a test like a piece of code that can have a setup, optionally a setup, which somehow initializes the system under test. This happens with the annotation before all and before each. And the actual test has two parts typically. A part in which we exercise the system under tests, okay, which can be a unit, a class, a method, can be an integration of component, can be a system, a whole system. And after this exercise part, we need to somehow verify. We need to make some assertion about the data obtained by the system under test is what expected. Okay? This is the verified part. And optionally, we can cheat down process in which we somehow finish the test. And the assertions is quite relevant in testing. I suppose you know this, okay? Because we need to compare what is expected and with the actual outcome. This is done with assertions or predicates, also its name. And with this Boolean value, we have the verdict of the test. We have a test which is success or a test which is failing. So in JUnit 5, the assertions is provided with static methods, okay, of the class assertions. We have a lot of assertions. And typically, we are going to use further libraries for assertions using libraries like Hungress, AssertJ, Thread, which are convenient because it provides a rich API to make assertions. In fact, I'm presenting this because in the examples I'm using Threads. Okay, it's a relatively new library made by Google, and this is in the examples I am using this. Well, of course, you can use the most convenient for you. So well, the JUnit 5 has many other features. Okay, it's not the topic of today. Present everything because it has a lot. I recommend you to take a look to the documentation. It has very important features for testing. And the last part about JUnit 5 I'm presenting today, it's about something which is in fact very relevant for the topic about Selenium. Is the extension model. Because the name Jupyter is not only the programming model provided by JUnit 5, but also the extension model. The extension model is somehow the capability of Jupyter, which allows to extend this programming model to other features. Okay, other features not implemented out of the box by the programming model. We can create our own extensions, we say. So this extension model, in fact, is very relevant because when I was studying somehow this technology to write the book, I realized that Selenium is a nice technology to be used in conjunction with JUnit 5, because the extension model provides something like dependency injection, which is something we are going to see in short. Okay, and in my opinion, this is going to be relevant for Selenium. We can use add our custom logic in the test lifecycle, which is going to be very relevant, for example, to integrate with Docker. And also it has something which is called test templates, which is going to be very interesting, in my opinion, to create data-driven tests of Selenium. Okay, use the same logic with different browsers. In this case, you can run whatever test of Selenium with Chrome, Firefox, Opera, and so on, simply using a very convenient programming model. So for that, I create Selenium-Jupiter, which is somehow the major part of the talk, and I am going to show you how to create a test of Jupyter test, okay, JUnit 5 test with Selenium and with this extension. So the motivation, why I create this tool. First, I created in my free time. Okay, I'm not earning money yet. No, it's a joke. I don't earn any money with this, but I feel that can be used can be useful for people out there. So I feel that it's a tool that can be good for the community. So the motivation, the idea I had is that I can create a tool, a convenient tool for testers, with some guidelines, okay, and this 4 ticks is a summary of that. I would like to implement Selenium testing in the JUnit 5 with this requirement to create clean tests, to reduce the boilerplate, for example, required for other testing framework like JUnit 4. In fact, I'm going to show you the comparison between JUnit 4 and JUnit 5. Then second and very important is that, in Selenium, in fact, I wrote some papers about this. Two of the main problems detected by practitioners using Selenium is that the maintainability and the flakiness, that is a test that is going to fail at some point, it's an important problem. So somehow I would like to reduce this problem, to improve the maintainability and to reduce the flakiness. And I'm going to show you why I think Selenium-Jupiter can help in this topic. Then the effortless integration with Docker. Okay, I think Docker is a very important technology, but for testing it's very interesting, and specifically for Selenium can be in my opinion a very good choice in order to again to improve the maintainability of testing projects. And then I am a testing guy. I have worked in testing a lot of time, and I somehow invest in all the things I have learned in this tool, okay, for implementing different about features for testers. So let's see the code. Okay, I think the good part of this presentation is we have many codes. And the first thing we need to do in order to use Selenium-Jupiter is to configure the pet dependency. Basically, this is the coordinates of Selenium-Jupiter. This is the latest version, 3.4, released yesterday, by the way. And let's see code, okay? In fact, now I'm going to show you somehow a fight between the old world and the new world, which is very similar, but it's not the same. So let me show you the code, okay? Here I am using Eclipse, and I have here the Selenium-Jupiter example repo. And let me show you first what it looks like a Selenium test using JUnit 4. Okay, this is JUnit 4. As you can see, well, we typically need to do something like this. We need to download the Chrome driver. In this case, we are going to use Chrome. Okay, so I need to download Chrome driver. I need to export this property. Typically, I'm going to do something like this to create the Chrome driver before the test. The test is very dummy. Okay, I'm going to open the Selenium-Jupiter documentation, and I'm going to assert that the title is as expected. And at the end, I'm going to close the driver in the browser. So I had to say that I prepared this test some months ago, okay, and I didn't touch the test. So what is happening when I try to run this test? Okay, I have run this. Well, the test has failed. Okay, and has failed. I left the test broken on purpose because, well, as I said, I code this test some months ago, and at that moment I download the Chrome driver version 85. Okay, because at that moment 85 was the latest version of Chrome, and that's the version I have installed in my machine. The thing is that Chrome, like Firefox or Opera or Edge, are called evergreen browsers. And these kind of browsers are going to be updated automatically. So now, in 2021, the latest version of Chrome is 88. So this is incompatible with Chrome driver 85. So in order to fix these tests, I need to go to the Chrome driver $page. I need to check my Chrome version, which is 88, and I need to download the proper Chrome driver, which in this case is Linux 74. I have to extract here, for example. Okay, I have that path, and I can do something like this in order to use this new version of Chrome driver. I'm going to run again the test. And now the test is working, okay? But as you can see here, there are different types of problems here. This test has a maintenance cost, okay, because I had to do it manually. And this test, by definition, is flagging. Okay, this test eventually is going to fail. At some point, this version of Chrome driver is going to be outdated because Chrome is going to be updated automatically. And by the way, this test is not portable because this is linked to my hard drive. So, well, this is what is happening with Selenium with JUnit 4. Okay, it works, but it has problems. So let's take a look to the same test, but this time encode with JUnit 5. Okay. And basically, as you can see here, the test is the same. The logic within the test is exactly the same. I use the driver to open the documentation and insert the title, but I have reduced the boilerplate of the test because, well, here, as you can see, I'm telling that I am using Selenium-Jupiter, the extension of JUnit 5, and here appears something which is a dependency injection feature provided by Jupyter. So I can specify here a type, okay, of the web driver hierarchy, and Selenium-Jupiter is going to be in charge of first resolving the cron driver, the proper cron driver for my machine, and instantiate the object properly. And at the end of the test, this is going to be released properly also. And this is dynamic, okay? This process is dynamic, and the version is checked each time. Well, it has a TTL implemented, but we can think about this as a dynamic process, and it's auto-maintained. Okay, so this test is, well, I can run if you want app JUnit test 2. And as you can see here, the test is the same, but what is happening is that, well, in the implementation of Selenium-Jupiter, I use another of my tool, which is called WebDriver Manager. Okay, WebDriver Manager, I think it's a popular, let's say, tool for resolving the drivers such as cron driver. So, well, this is somehow the most basic text of Selenium-Jupiter. And by the way, you can say the browser simply Firefox, simply changing the type you can use. Firefox in this case, if you want, of course you are using Firefox, whatever, even H, okay, it's nowadays is supported in Linux too, in Linux. So basically you specify the type of the browser you want to use, and the magic happens inside, and it's provided by you by Selenium-Jupiter. So, well, this feature, in my opinion, is quite relevant, but it's only the tip of the iceberg, okay? Selenium-Jupiter provides many features, and I'm going to try to explain many of them. So, well, let's move on. This is a summary about what I have explained, the dependency injection provided by Jupiter and used by Selenium-Jupiter. These are the browsers you can use, all the evergreen browsers, also Internet Explorer or PhantomJS, which are legacy browsers. Even Appium, I'm going to show you an example, and even Selenite. Okay, Selenite is it's a framework which provides a high-level API based on Selenium. Even you can use that with Selenium-Jupiter. So, well, let's move on now. This is about local browser. Okay, we are using the browser is only in my machine. Okay, we can use different browsers. And let's move on now to the second part of Selenium-Jupiter, which is use remote browsers which are not in my machine, are hosted typically in a Selenium grid or in a Selenium cloud, like SOSLab. Okay, SOSLab, maybe you, for sure, you know about this. It's a cloud provider of browsers and mobile devices. Okay. And Appium, it's well, it's somehow an extension of Selenium WebDriver to use mobile devices, okay, physical or virtual mobile devices, using a similar programming model than Selenium WebDriver. So I'm going to show you an example of Appium. Okay, you have both example in the repository. I'm going to show you here an example of how to use, in this case, Appium with Selenium-Jupiter. I have here in this folder, Appium. And to use that, Selenium-Jupiter provides two annotation, which allows to specify the URL. This is the Selenium server URL or the Appium server URL in this case, and the capabilities. Okay, in this case, I'm going to specify which browser I'm going to use on this device, and in this case, which device. Okay, the name of the device, which is a Galaxy Nexus. In my case, hosted in virtual. So for that, I need Android Studio. Here is the, sorry, Studio, yeah. Here, I need the device manager. Okay, and I have this mobile, this virtual mobile. And well, I need Appium. I need the Appium server, which is a Node.js application. Listening in this port, this somehow is the URL I need to specify here. And let me show you what happens if I run this test, okay, using this mobile device. Of course, I'm going to, if everything goes correctly, I'm going to, well, run the test, always the same test I'm using here, opening documentation. And as you can see, the type I'm specifying here is Appium driver, because I'm using Appium, very easily integrated through Selenium-Jupiter. So here we have seen two URLs that can be used, by the way, at this level, or even at the argument level also. So this is the second group of features about using remote browsers with Selenium-Jupiter. And the third one, in my opinion, is the most important, okay, using Docker. As you know, Docker allows to run containers, okay, it's not the only technology for containers, but it's one of the most well-known today, Docker. And the idea is that Selenium-Jupiter is going to be able to pull the Docker containers for browsers and also for Android devices. And the supported browser and devices are summarized in this slide. Okay. Using this annotation, Docker browser, I'm going to show you the code in short, we can use all of these browsers in a very easy way, okay? Because the hard work is done by Selenium-Jupiter, the pulling the images, starting the containers, connecting the Selenium with your logic, and at the end, stopping of the container and leaving everything like in the beginning. So we can use Chrome, Firefox, Opera, and Edge, okay? Many versions about that, by the way. And this Docker images has been maintained by the people of AeroCube. Okay, it's I know personally some of these guys. They are making very good work with Selenium stuff, and one of them is browsers in Docker images. So my project Selenium-Jupiter use this thanks to the AeroCube guys. Also, for the beta and a stable version of Chrome and Firefox only, I am using, when I say it's Selenium-Jupiter, the image is provided by the project Elastest. Okay, Elastest is a project I used to work, and the Docker images are still maintained, so Selenium-Jupiter use that beta and unstable Docker images within Selenium-Jupiter. Also, we can use Internet Explorer. This is something that can be strange, because Internet Explorer is, well, it's a legacy browser. It's a browser only for Windows, but it can be done. Okay, you can package Windows with an Internet Explorer and make this available for your test. And when I say you, I mean you need to do that, because these Docker images are not in Docker Hub because of the license of Windows. This is not possible, but you can do it on your own. If you have a Windows license, you can follow this link. It's a tutorial by AeroCube on how to create these Docker images with Docker, Windows, and Internet Explorer. And when this is done, when you have the image, you can use in your test. And finally, Android. Okay, Android devices in Docker containers. Okay, this is also possible. I'm going to show you how. And thanks to the project Docker Android, which is an open source project maintained by this guy, Woody Otomo. And Selenium-Jupiter, again, is a user of these Docker images. It's pulled from Docker Hub and used by Selenium-Jupiter. So let's see how to do that, okay? Because as I said, I think an interesting part of this talk is the code. Here, you can see in this slide a snippet, a piece of code, how to use the browser in Docker. And as you can see here, this annotation has a parameter which is mandatory, which is the type. You need to specify which type of browser you are going to use. And the possibilities are Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Edge, Explorer, and Android. And then the version. The version is not mandatory. If you don't provide anything, we are going to use the latest by default. And when I mean the latest, I refer that Selenium-Jupiter is going to connect to Docker Hub in the moment you run the test, and it's going to obtain the latest version at that moment, and it's going to use the latest version. So this is somehow, again, the maintainability is very good because it's automatic. Okay, we are not going to specify the version, and we are going to use always the latest version available in Docker Hub. But also we can use a fixed version, for example, 85.0 or whatever. And also we can use wildcards like beta for using the beta version, which is also automatically updated. And you, for example, use latest minus a number. Latest minus 1 means the version which is the just before the stable, also unstable. Okay. So let's see this in action, because I think this is better understood with code. I think I feel that. And let's see a basic example of Docker. In this case, well, two tests in the same class. Here I'm going to use Chrome, the latest version of Chrome. At the moment is 88, and the beta version of Firefox. Okay. So if I run this, of course, I am not going to see anything because this happened in Docker containers. I can see the trace. It's not the most amazing thing in the world. But as you can see here, I am using the beta version of Firefox. It is fixed in my code. I want to use the beta version. So the test was very fast because I already ran before the talk, and I have the images updated in my machine. Otherwise, I need to pull the image, which is 1 gig or something. This is the test about Firefox, and the second one is about Chrome. In this case, I'm going to check Docker Hub. I'm going to calculate the latest version with 88. I'm going to pull, and I'm going to use that for my test. So basically, as you can see here, you need only to specify the Chrome and the version if you want, and the code is up to you. Here it's using the Selenium API in Java, which is, I didn't touch anything about that. It's vanilla Selenium API. Okay, so it's the usual API. So well, this is again, I think it's a good stuff for testers. But when using Docker for testing with Selenium, we can use many other features which are, in my opinion, interesting. For example, well, as I said, it's happening in Docker. We don't see anything. But what if I want to take a look to the browser? Can I do that? So the answer is yes. Selenium-Jupiter provides also remote access to the Docker container using VNC. Okay. In fact, VNC through a technology called no-VNC, which is connected using the browser. I'm going to show you in a bit. Also, we can make a recording, which in my opinion is very, very important, to make a recording of the session automatically done by Selenium, because when Selenium test fails, the answer is, okay, why the test fails? So that could be tricky. So having the recording, maybe we can take a look at what happened, for example, when running a test suite in Jenkins, and with the recording, at least we have something to check. Okay. And also we can implement performance tests. Okay, not using a browser or two, but a bunch of browsers, a list of browsers. So let me show you these features in action with the code. So first, for example, about the remote access with VNC. Again, we have a test in which I'm using Chrome. And this time, let me show you again. In this case, I am specifying the extension with the extend suite, which is provided by Jupyter, by JUnit 5. And in this case, I'm using this register extension, which is basically the same. I'm telling, okay, I'm going to use this extension, Selenium-Jupiter. But with this, I have the instance of the extension. And with that instance, in this case, I can make some configuration with the getConfig method. Here I have a bunch of different alternatives for configuration. In fact, I recommend you to take a look to the documentation because the configuration capabilities of Selenium-Jupiter are, well, are rich, okay, have different options. And in this case, I'm telling, okay, I am going to enable BNC. I am going to connect to the Docker container, and I'm going to take a look. So, well, the test is the same, and I'm doing something which is not a best practice. I know about this weight, but in this case, I'm doing this in order to have time to connect to the Docker container. So let me run this test for you and show you what's happening. In the trace of the test, at some point, an URL is going to appear, and using that URL, I can connect to the remote session. This is what is happening in my test. Okay, this is this has been closed because the 15 seconds has expired and the test has finished. But at least you can see that I have a new URL that can be used to check what is happening in the browser using BNC, okay, through another browser, okay. So, well, this is a first capability provided thanks to Docker, and the recording is very similar. Okay, I'm going to configure here that the recording, which is disabled by default, is enabled simply setting this property, set recording to true. And again, the same dummy test. In this case, I'm going to use the latest -1 version, which in this case is 87. So I'm going to run this test. So here, you can see I'm using 87. I'm waiting 5 seconds just to have a bit longer recording. And okay, it's supposed to be recorded. By default, the recordings are placed in the default folder of the project. In this case, it's Selenium-Jupiter example. Here, this file wasn't available, and now it has been created here. And basically, it's a recording of what happened in the test, and which we check the documentation of Selenium-Jupiter. This is quite convenient for tracing failure tests, in my opinion. And the last feature, well, one of the last features of Docker and Selenium-Jupiter is about performance, because, well, maybe you have you need to make a performance test of a website, for example, and you need browsers. You don't for example, JMeter is not enough for you. You need browsers. You need a list of browsers. You need a set of browsers. So, well, in this case, Selenium-Jupiter provides this capability, which, as you can see here, I am not asking for a single browser, but a list of, in this case, remote WebDriver objects. Okay. And in this case, what is going to happen is that, well, I need to specify how many browsers I need with this property size. In this case, I'm requiring only 3. And this list is going to be filled with 3 instances of remote WebDriver objects, which are going to be Chrome driver objects. And I'm going to use three Chrome to make my tests. Okay, I'm putting here 3, but could be a larger number. Okay. So, well, then I'm doing, well, some testing in parallel using threads. But the important thing here is that Selenium-Jupiter also provides this capability to get a list of browsers, not a single one, but a list of browsers. Well, if I run this, we are not going to see anything, but at least we can see that we are, in this case, requesting 3 Chrome browsers. Okay, and that's it. I'm testing the same stuff, and this could be convenient for having a number of browsers. here the answer is, okay, if I want to use, I don't know, 1,000 of browsers, can I do that? Because maybe I need to use a really big number of browsers. Well, the answer depends of your machine, okay? Because you are using a single Docker engine, okay? And your host, okay? In this machine, which is new, I didn't try. But in my former laptop, I managed to use like 100 of browsers with a single Docker engine, okay? Because otherwise the resources of your computer is going to be exhausted and the memory is going to be, well, finished and the computer is going to be freezed. So the scalability, here we have an scalability problem. So yeah, for this, it's an open issue and I would like to solve in the future, but so far the scalability is limited to a single Docker engine. In local, or also can be in a Docker engine in remote. That's possible, but a single. In any case, as I said, we can use this feature to have about 100 browsers, which is, in my opinion, a good number for most use cases. So yeah, this is the feature of performance testing with Docker and Selenium-Jupiter, okay? So next, let's move on. Let me check the time. It's 7. I'm going to try to speed a bit. Android, okay. I said that we can use Android out of the box, and that's true. We have this version of Android and these devices out of the box. And for that, it's very easy. We need simply to specify, I have an example here, that the type is Android. The version in this case is the 9.0. The device is this one. And well, here I'm tuning this configuration. The number of seconds I need to wait, not asking each time to the container if it's ready or not, because it's an Android device that has some time to start. And I'm using here the VNC and the recording capabilities. So let me show you this. I'm going to delete this recording. I don't do it anymore. And I'm going to run this test. And if everything is executed correctly, at the end of this test, we are going to have a recording of, in this case, a Samsung Galaxy S6 mobile device. Here we are waiting these 15 minutes until this here, okay, the Android release is not ready. We can need to wait a bit longer. But eventually, we are going to have a PNC URL because we have enabled the VNC capability, and we can connect to the remote session. And at the end, hopefully, we are going to have the recording too. The problem here, well, now we have the URL. I can connect to this URL. And as you can see, I have, well, this is a Galaxy XS browser in this case. You can interact with that, okay? And at the end of the test, we are going to have the recording in the folder. Here, I think we are waiting for, I can't remember, 20 seconds. Okay, I suppose in a short, this test is going to finish. And when that happens, we are going to have now it's finishing. Stopping the container, waiting for the recording. I suppose the recording is now available, and that's it. As you can see here, we have an MP4 file, which is basically what I saw in the VNC recording. Okay, the mobile, and in fact, this is my, well, what I did with the mobile during the test time. So, well, as you can see, it's very easy to use also Docker. In this case, browser in Docker. You can use, if you want to test even application, okay, you can specify an APK and test an application, not only browser, but also, application, mobile application in Android. Okay, this is basically Appium. And well, this is this part, Docker browser, Android. And the last part, well, not the last part, in fact, let me check. Yeah. we have three more slides about Selenium-Jupiter. The test template is something I like very much because for me it's something which can be useful. Okay, test templates, it's an annotation provided by JUnit 5 in which we are going to reuse the same logic with different test data. Somehow it's a data-driven approach. Okay. So in particular in Selenium-Jupiter, what I'm going to do is to reduce a logic with a group of different browsers. Okay. So let me show you with the code because it's very easy to understand with an example. The idea of test templates is that I am not specifying which browser to use. Okay, I'm basically telling that I'm going to use a generic WebDriver object. Okay, I have here some logic, it's the same again and again, but in somewhere I'm going to specify which different types of browser I'm going to use for this test. By default, if I don't specify anything, Selenium-Jupiter is going to find to look for a JSON file with a given syntax within the class path of my project, which by default is called browsers.json. And as you can see here, I specify a list of browsers, basically type of version. And in this case, I specify three elements, okay? Three browsers. First, Chrome in Docker, version latest. Second, Chrome in Docker again, but latest -1. And then beta, Chrome beta, okay? All of them in Docker, okay? So the idea is that this test is going to be executed 3 times for the stable version of Chrome, for the latest stable version of Chrome, okay, 87 in this case, and for the beta version. And this is something which in my opinion, it's very important for many use cases to be able to detect if my application, my web application is working in the current version of Chrome, but also in the next version of Chrome, effortless, okay? I basically need to specify the types here. Also,
we come look at this video.
Hello. I can change the type of the browser, okay? Okay? I can basically change this. This is a JSON file. And if I run this, Selenium-Jupiter is going to read this file, the JSON file, and in this case, it's going to execute the test a number of times. Here, as you can see, I'm running 1, 2, and 3 times. Okay, it's very fast, and I execute my tests with different browsers. Okay, basically with what I told here. Okay, I can simply change like this. If I run the task again, in this case, I am going to use Edge in the first place, okay? And well, Chrome, Docker, and whatever. Okay? Also, I can specify browsers which are not in Docker, by the way, simply changing this. Okay? So this, in my opinion, is quite interesting, okay? Because somehow it's parameterize the test with the types and the version of browsers with a syntax, which is the browser, the JSON file. In fact, you can specify also with Java code using this API. Okay, but this, in my opinion, is interesting because it can be tuned, for example, in Jenkins configuration. In fact, this is something I'm going to show you. And this is the test template. As I said, it's a feature that I particularly like. So the next part is the integration with Jenkins. Okay, I'm going to go to show this quickly, I hope. Jenkins can be
it's under the mouse pad
easily with Jenkins, simply using the configuration and the files produced by Selenium-Jupiter, namely recordings and screenshots. Screenshot is something I didn't explain, but Selenium-Jupiter can make screenshots conditionally of the status of the test. For example, I can configure that I made a screenshot of the browser at the end of the test if the test failed. Okay. In any case, we can have PNG files and MP4 files for the recordings, and we can get these files from the Jenkins graphical user interface through the JUnit attachment plugin, okay, which is a plugin of Jenkins, and Selenium-Jupiter publish these files in this plugin. So again, let me show you an example. I have an instance of Jenkins up and running in my machine, in my local host. And well, for make this quicker, well, I need to say again, I have a couple of jobs here in Selenium-Jupiter, and let me show you the configuration, which is the relevant part of this. In this case, I am going to run a Docker recording test. I'm going to specify these configuration keys to enable the recording, to make an extension, and to specify the output folder to be gathered by the JUnit attachment plugin. Okay, this is with this label. Selenium-Jupiter knows that the files produced needs to be stored in a folder which is going to be found by the JUnit attachment plugin. So if I run this, well, it's a simple test about a use of Docker and the recording. And when the test finishes, it's supposed to not to last long. Yeah, we have test no failures, but the idea is that within the tests, in this case, here I have the attachments, which are first the screenshot at the end of the test, and also here, well, the recording. I have problem with my computer, by the way. I don't know. Wait, I cannot show you this. Maybe my computer is too load. Okay, here. That's the recording. Yeah. So let's move on to another example of Jenkins, this time using templates. And here the relevant part is that, as I said, well, you can specify using some shell scripting which browser and types you are going to use. In this case, I'm going to use Chrome and Docker latest, beta, and so on. And in this case, we are going to run this test for time, okay, for these browsers and versions. And when I run this, and let me show you this previous execution, which is basically I did just before the talk. In here, we have the recordings and the for some reason, my Jenkins is not working very nicely, but believe me, yeah, here, as you can see, at least one recording. Well, the idea is that, well, we have a seamless integration with Jenkins through the JUnit attachment plugin with Selenium, and well, thanks to the test template and the recording capabilities, we have the ability to check what is happening in our Selenium tests. So I am about to finish. Yeah, the last part is, well, what happens if I am not a Java user? Well, maybe if in that case you are not in this talk, because this is a talk about JUnit. But in any case, if you can use Selenium-Jupiter with another language binding, you have different options, because Selenium-Jupiter can be executed in two different options. First, as a command line interface tool from the shell. And with that feature, we can use Selenium-Jupiter to somehow manual testing. With each release of Selenium-Jupiter, what I did is that I also released this jar, which is a standalone jar, a fat jar. It's a jar with all the dependencies. And with that, I can use Selenium-Jupiter like this. Of course, here I need to specify something because, for example, I can specify I am going to use, let me show you this. This was, yeah, for example, like this. And in this case, I am going to use Selenium-Jupiter to have H in a Docker container. And I have here the URL. And basically, what I have is, in this case, an H browser. Okay, it's the latest in this case. We can check which version is. It's H89 this moment. And basically, I have this using a single command in the command line. Okay, I can present it to finish, but I can also specify the version. I don't know, Firefox beta, for example. And this is starting, and I'm going to use Firefox beta from BNC using this URL now. And this is supposed to be the beta version of Firefox, okay, 55. And of course, this is a working browser. Okay, this can be useful for manual testing in an effortless way. Okay, this is the first way we can use Selenium-Jupiter out of Java, and the second one is as a server. As a server, I'm going to show you here. In fact, I'm going to go to the downloads here. As a server, Selenium-Jupiter is going to work as a Selenium hub. Okay, if you are familiar with Selenium Grip, you know we have a piece which is the hub, which is a piece which is going to listen to requests from remote clients. And Selenium-Jupiter acts as a Selenium hub, okay, Selenium server. So for starting this, I need to specify only this command, okay, Java server, okay. And in this case, Selenium-Jupiter server is listening to this URL, and I can use this URL as a regular Selenium server, okay. In fact, I have here prepared an example of Node.js, okay. As you can see here, this is JavaScript, this is Node. And basically, when I am using that URL to use, in this case, version 88 of Chrome. So if I run this, I think it's this one Node. What's the name? Basic test. As you can see here, the server is posting some traces because the test, what the test does is to connect to the documentation and check the title of that page. And as you can see here, this is thanks that Selenium-Jupiter has resolved this request, and it has used Docker to provide this browser. So I think I'm going to finish. Okay. Some conclusions for this. Well, Selenium-Jupiter is an open source project. You can use it if you want. You can contribute if you want. There are other features that I haven't explained. My recommendation for you is, you are interested in this, is to take a look at the documentation. And well, I have in mind a roadmap for the project. I have different features I want to implement. As I said, the scalability is one of them. My intention was using Kubernetes, but nowadays I think it's not a good idea because Kubernetes is not supporting Docker anymore. So I think I'm going to use another approach. I want to improve the test template support with different options, and well, and also I want to improve the diagnostic capabilities by gathering the browser console out of the box in Selenium-Jupiter. So that's it. I don't know if I speak too much today. I've more or less 10 minutes, okay? Thanks. I think we can make a question and answer space for any question you have, any comment, any feedback is welcome.
Thank you very much. I've collected a few questions, so I will go through them in order. And if you have a microphone and if you want to, you can ask the question yourself. And if not, let us know and I will just read out the question. The first one was from Lindsay. And thank you very much. Awesome talk.
Thank you.
Okay, if Lindsay...
started me, for example, I don't have a question. I know the project. Just congratulations, Bonnie. Your work is amazing. So again, congratulations and continue with your great project.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Raul. Thank you very much. And keep up the good work with Intuilio.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay, then I will read the first question from Lindsay. Is it not possible to use a WebDriver manager with JUnit 4?
Yes, of course, it's possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's possible. Of course. In fact, this is some of the usual use cases of WebDriver managers. The WebDriver manager with JUnit 4. In fact, in the documentation of WebDriver manager, I have written a note. If you are interested in JUnit 5, I recommend you to use Selenium-Jupiter because it's not only about local browsers, which is that's what's happening with WebDriver manager, but also, as you have seen with another interesting features like Docker or remote browsers, integration with APU and Jenkins. So, well, my opinion, Selenium-Jupiter, it's somehow it's a superset of WebDriver manager.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it looks very convenient to use. Igor, do you want to read out your question yourself?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I can do. First of all, thanks a lot for this presentation. My question was regarding this Docker browser annotation. Can it be used not per method, but per class? So on a higher level, so that I set up browser not for each particular method, but for the whole test class?
Yep. Yeah, it can be done. I think it's something I didn't explain. Thanks for the question because you can, and the dependency injection can be done at method level or at constructor level in the class, within the class. So you can specify, for example, Chrome driver object in the constructor and use this object in the whole test. In fact, let me show you one example of that because that's very interesting because, well, I have prepared many other material, but for timing, I didn't show you everything. It's in the, let me remind, order. Yeah, this one. This ordered Selenium tests use a feature of JUnit 5, which is a ordering method for test. Let's see, one for this test, second this other test, okay? And here, the interesting part is here, because I am injecting the Chrome driver at the constructor level, and I am reusing the same browser with different tests, which is something that can be a typical use case. Imagine this is a login in a web page, and it happens at the beginning. You need to be sure that it happens at the beginning. And with the same browser, because I am using this annotation, which is provided by Selenium-Jupiter single session, I am not closing the browser each time that a test is happening, okay? So I am reusing this object for this logic and this other logic. So if I run this test, in fact, I am going to connect to the Selenium. As you can see, there is like a link, there is a step, because I have opened the URL of the documentation in the first place. And in the second place, using the same browser, as you can see, the browser hasn't closed in the first test. I'm using another stuff. In this case, I'm clicking a link. So yeah, it can be done like this.
Cool, thank you very much. The next question is from Weil. Do you want to ask yourself?
Yes. Thank you, Bonnie, for your presentation.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask about the versions of browsers when we use Docker images. Can I specify an option for Selenium-Jupiter to only use locally available Docker images without telling him it to get a specified version, not to look in on Docker Hub.
Yeah, 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 of course. I don't know, I have an example. I don't think so, but in any case, here, for example, you can specify, I don't know, version 87. And in this case, you are not going to connect to Docker Hub to calculate the latest version. You are going to use version 87. And if you have this Docker image already pulled, it's not going to be required internet connection. In fact, this is a improvement of the latest version, because in the latest version, somehow the standalone mode has problems. So now, even if you don't have an internet connection, but you have, of course, the Docker image, this is going to work.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Next question is from Dave. Do you want to ask yourself? Okay, then I will ask, what library is used for the video recording?
MPGEF. Sorry.
I think people know which one you mean. Yes, that one.
That one. FFmpeg. That one. This
Yes.
it's installed in each Docker. I know this very good because I work in the Elastic project, and we did an improvement of that, because we need to record not only the video but also the audio. Okay, for WebRTC testing, you are aware of this, and we used FFmpeg that one that library for recording video and audio. And nowadays, in fact, in the audio cube. In the audio Docker images, they are supporting already the recording of audio, which is very relevant for real-time communications testing. If you, for example, you are testing WebRTC, which is, for example, I mean this. Let me show you this. For example, this is an example. I didn't explain this, but it's somehow, I don't know, you hear the beep, 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 beep. That sound,
Yep.
It's a video for real-time communication through WebRTC, which is very relevant nowadays, by the way, in this world. and yeah, it can be recorded with video and audio.
Thank you very much. Next up is Gaurav. What's your question?
Thank you, Jervin. Thank you, Bonnie, for nice presentation. And we are thoroughly using your WebDriver manager in our project. My question is, can I control one particular test? Like now you inject the dependency, Chrome driver or Firefox, but like I want to run same test on the Android and the Chrome, and other tests might be on Safari and Firefox, which right now we do through TestNG suite, and give some parameter in the TestNG suite, and we can run same test against any browser or some particular browser. So how easy is it in this Selenium-Jupiter? Like maybe I'm missing the mapping, like you have the browser.json where you can define some browser, but how easy it is configurable and controlling?
If I understand well, you have a test logic, and you need to execute this test logic with different browsers. Is that?
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Well, in that case, I think the best option is to use the test templates, which is, well, basically it's not a test, it's not an annotation. A test is test template. You specify here whatever logic you need to specify, and this object is generic. Later, you are going to configure which browser are going to be used, and you can do with different options. For example, using a JSON file, here 3 browsers with different versions, or even with Java configuration. Here in this method, you specify, well, this test is going to execute twice, one by each in Chrome, and the second with Firefox, the same test logic with different browsers. So I think this is the option for you. In fact, here you can specify Android, Chrome in Docker, all the possible browser supported by Selenium-Jupiter can be specified for test templates.
Thank you.
Okay, then we have the almost last question. I have one more after that myself, but Luis, do you want to ask your question yourself? Okay, then I will ask, can Selenium-Jupiter be utilized with Lambda test?
Lambda test. I don't know. I don't know. What's that, by the way? Lambda test. What do you mean? Lambda? Java?
It's written as one word, so I assume it's a product.
I think
probably something headless. I don't know.
I think it's cloud provider might be cloud provider.
It's like a source lab. It's like a cloud provider, like source labs. Yeah.
If it is like source lab, I would say yes, because if it's like source lab, basically it's a cloud provider. It's like a Selenium grid on the cloud. So
yeah.
if it is not the case, I would say yes. And how you can have here an example of that. I suppose you have a URL of your endpoint, okay, and some capabilities to specify the browser and so on. And that's the way. In this example, well, this is a source lab example. You need to specify your user and your key. And then, of course, source lab has a bunch of browsers with different platforms, versions, and so on. And I suppose Lambda test is something like that. So I would say yes, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I have one last question, and it's not really a technical one, but I mean, is it fair to call you an academic in test? So would you say there is a benefit of staying in academia and doing testing related things?
For me or for others?
You can go into personal experience or general, up to you.
Well, I am a testing guy because I did my PhD dissertation focus on software testing. And then I have worked in different projects related to testing. So somehow the projects I'm maintaining, I'm doing because I feel it's good for others. So I don't have any particular benefits. Maybe I can write some papers. I have written some papers about Selenium, and that's something, somehow it's for my CV, okay? It's for me. I did this project, and I can publish somehow the results. This is what I get, and for the rest of the people, well, I hope for example, Web Driver Manager is a project which is quite used of there based on the statistics. Selenium-Jupiter is not that big in looking at the numbers, but well, I suppose it's the open source. Okay, it's good for people using, but also for the people maintaining project, because it's somehow a way to be updated, to know the latest technology, and somehow also I try to explain to my students. Okay, if you something I do to my students is you detect some problem, you detect something that is missing in the technology. That's the best thing you can do, because you can implement that. Okay, so this is software. If you detect this is a problem, this is what happened to me when you use Selenium. That the driver maintenance was a tough task. So
yeah,
well, if you detect a problem, well, you can try to implement that and open source the project, and maybe this can be good for you and good for others, and that's part of your CV. And that's what I told you, my students. This is part of your formation. And when you go to ask for a position, there, I did this project. For example, I know that Google, it's something that is well seen, that you maintain your own projects. If your projects are used, it means that you has done something well. So well,
awesome.
that's my motivation for doing this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, makes a lot of sense. Usually you have an employer or someone who has a very specific goal why you should test something. So actually going after your passion or your own problems can be very rewarding, I assume. Thank you very much. Great talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cool. Yeah, Bonnie, thank you very much. I think the level of detail that you offered to everyone who attended was really great because obviously you can see this as a concept and you can do a few slides, but if you don't show how things are used, then it doesn't really make sense. So I really appreciate that you took the time to show the examples, go into detail, and that's really nice for everyone who attended. Yeah, I don't have many words for you than just saying thank you. I'm happy that you actually had the time to make the meetup because I always remember that when we were talking about doing presentations for the Selenium conference or something like that, you need to use your vacation time or something like that. Like when we met in I think it was in Tokyo for the first time.
Yeah.
So in the Selenium conference. So I think that's, I really appreciate that you take the time that is your personal time to do this presentation. That is truly thankful for that.
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks to you.
Cool. So I will take back control of the screen. So I start to wrap up the meetup and right. So yeah, thank you, Bonnie. Amazing. You will be able to see the recording in a few days in our website. And oh yeah, if you didn't see, like I pasted the link for the webinar that Wim will do. So take a look. Maybe it's interesting for you and check it out. And let me announce the next event. The end of February, so a bit less than 1 month. We're gonna have Jimin. He works at SOS and he did this talk in the previous conference of Agile Testing Days. And it was really interesting because he exposed what trouble you bump into when you are trying to write tests in different browsers. And this is was like independent if you had like a local grid or if you were using the cloud, it didn't matter. So I found the concepts he showed there quite interesting. And that's why I told him if he could join us, and he's going to be very happy to share all the knowledge he has about writing tests when you need to execute them in different browsers and in a quick way. And yeah, please share with your colleagues, your friends, if you want to see the videos and the next events, head up to Continuous Testing Meetup and you will see all the details over there. Also our Slack workspace and our Twitter account and a few other interesting links that you can find and also to make part of the community. And with that, I just want to thank you all for being here and I hope to see you in the next event. Thank you, Severin, for being here. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Madi, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.